Previously on the Embracing the Journey podcast.
At what point did you realize, like, oh, I'm going to take this to college and, like, you could be really successful with it?
Yeah, like my life changed drastically over 5 minutes.
Do you think between high school and college, like, your mental health took a toll or took a turn, like, for worse or better once you had to enter that higher level and, like, demanded a lot more from you?
As you know, as an athlete, if your athletics start to take a dip, everything around your personal life and your entity all start to go take that dip as well. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Embracing the Journey podcast. Today's a little bit different. I'm actually being interviewed by one of my very own athletes. She plays soccer at Washington State University, and I can't wait for you guys to hear about this episode, so stay tuned.
I know so many kids, and like teammates even on my team, who have quit just because, not maybe because of the coach, but because there wasn't support and there wasn't like the coach going the extra mile to make sure they are okay, or like kids fake injuries because they have a mental like capacity that they've been pushed to, but the physical injury is what's seen first. And I feel like that's continued into college on such a larger level, like even to like traumatic outcomes like suicide rates in sports. That's kind of what drew my attention to this. And I think you probably saw that too in college. Like, did you have athletes who quit teams because of it, or like had worse outcomes?
Yeah, definitely. I've had teammates that have had really, really good high school careers get into college and not be able to show up to the mental capacity that a coach needs them to. And then they've ended up removing themselves or being cut.
Yeah.
Michael Phelps came out with this movie called Beyond the Gold or Behind the Gold, one of the two.
Weight of gold or
something like that. And there was an athlete in that documentary that ended up killing himself. He committed suicide. And that was my roommate at the Olympic Training Center for a year.
Wow.
And you would look at this guy and he wouldn't stick out like a sore thumb because he was happy. He was everything that you wanted in an athlete. Mm-hmm. And you never knew the dark side. There was also this girl, she ran, I want to say the 800 or the mile, and realized at a certain point, we were indoor. She realized at a certain point that she wasn't going to make that world championship team that year. During her race, she realized this and jumped headfirst off the bank track and tried to put herself out. And again, those aren't talked about, because if you knew that existed in your sport, first of all, you got to ask your parents, like, can I do this sport? Knowing what the repercussions may be. And then you got to ask yourself, how much are you willing to give to this sport if that's the end result? So you see it all the time, but because it's not widely talked about, you usually turn the other cheek and just trying to focus on something different. But it's definitely there. And going off of the coach and their older philosophies, being in a place for 30 years, I challenge you to look at it like this. How many girls are on a soccer team?
Between 25, 35.
Okay. Let's say 30 for the sake of the combo. Imagine you have 30 best friends. And every single day, and there's 30 days in a month, every single day one of those athletes or one of your best friends comes up to you with a different problem, all alluding to the same thing. I need a break. I need a break. I need a break. All 30 of them.
Yeah.
At what point do you put a wall up and be like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Right? And then you disassociate with their issue, because now you're looking deep within yourself, being like, am I the problem? That's how these coaches look at this. Mm-hmm. Every single year, they got athletes that are going to come in that are supposed to score points, make them money, make the school look good, so the next recruit can come in and potentially challenge them for their position or take their position.
Yeah.
So at what point are you sitting down and listening to 35 individuals tell you the same thing you've heard every year for the past 30 years? and taking that serious.
Yeah, it's a hard line.
Very. Not to say that that's right, but what I'm saying is like these coaches have seen everything every scenario you can possibly imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And they're having a hard time buying in to certain stories because they already know the outcome. How are you hurt before season? How are you hurt before the game? How are you hurt always at practice, but you're always ready to play the game, right? How have you never shown up on time, but ask me for more playing time? So there's all these scenarios that these coaches are familiar with. So what they're doing is they're trying to piece you into experience that they've already had with past athletes. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Because if they have that one athlete who never needed a break, never got hurt, was always at peak performance and like a star athlete, they're always going to compare and want everyone to meet up to that. And I feel like that's obviously not reasonable, but coaches, I feel like, need to start. They don't need to be the ones to sit down and tell their players, like, take a week off or take 2 weeks off. Like, you can't do that in a season during, like, a college sport. But maybe having, like, more resources outside of soccer, having it more, like, accepted to, like, be able to talk to someone or, like, have that support or, like, that trusted adult that you can have. And that's not taking away from your time as an athlete.
Right. Look at it like this. You're 18, right? You have all the choices in the world, but your choices come with consequences, right? Your coach is never going to not to tell you, take 2 weeks off. He's never going to not say, Elliotte, don't do that. But what's the consequence of you taking 2 weeks off?
You're behind. You don't get your playing time, your spot.
So you have choices. It may not be the choices you want. So at that point, you personally have a decision to make. Is my mental health more important than my playing time?
Not a slippery slope, because if you continue to choose your sport, you can suddenly be somewhere where you never thought you'd get to.
Yep. Different.
Weird.
Shh. Quiet.
Mighty. Unstoppable.
Incredible.
What makes you different makes you great.
Embrace your punch.
And it has long-term effects.
Yeah.
Like myself included. I am in transitional therapy right now, learning how not to be a professional athlete in all aspects of my life.
Yeah.
Because I've only known competition. And again, I'm a more individualized sport, right? But knowing you, I know we have similar qualities when it comes to the desire to want to be great, right? There's nothing I wouldn't do not to be great.
Right.
But that transfers into other places in your life. Once you leave college and you want to start a business, you're going to think, because of your athletic background, that everybody's going to operate the same way that you will. Everybody's going to show up eager to work, eager to learn, eager to get these projects done. They're going to put their best foot forward. That's not how everybody moves. And it's going to be a really, really hard reality check when you start seeing that you aren't the same as everybody around you. You feel lonely.
Yeah.
Misunderstood. So, yeah, I mean, decisions come with consequences. Actions come with reactions.
And that transition from being a competitive professional athlete to now being able to, like, accept not being perfect or not reaching that, like, highest level every time. Would you say that's a long-term effect from, like, your personal qualities, or, like, the way college is operated and, like, how college sports are?
All of the above. You're going to be put into a situation here in a few months that is going to be vastly different than anything you've ever thought about. You're going to be traveling every weekend. You're going to be going to a school where there's 20, 30,000 people that all know who you are and you may not know who they are. You're going to have an entire marketing team behind you. You're going to be social media talk of the town. Like, there's no professional sports in Pullman, so you guys are the next best thing.
Yeah.
When you're transitioning from what you learned in high school against girls your age or a year older than you, you're going to be going against grown adult women that have dreams of making Olympic teams, dreams of playing professional soccer in Europe or in America, they're not going to operate the way that you are probably used to. No one goes on spring vacation anymore.
Yeah.
Right? They're all perfecting their craft. Even in the summer, they'll choose to stay on campus and pay out of pocket or make sure that their scholarship check covers them being able to go there and still be able to practice on their craft. That's not going to be everybody on your team, but you'll see the difference. You're a good athlete right now. Great. You're going to see how you match up with your greatness to a person that's extraordinary. And you're going to see that on your team. And for certain people, it's going to click and you're going to be like, that's what I want. And you'll work to get that. Where most people are like, well, I mean, yeah, she's already made an Olympic team. She's already good. Like, I mean, what do you want me to do? So again, you'll have those decisions to make.
You kind of mentioned a few times, like the idea of like being perfect, like perfecting your craft. Do you think the idea of like perfectionism and like not just being like your best self, but reaching perfect is taught at a young age where like it shouldn't be? Or do you think that's something that maybe helped you, is like trying to reach that like impossible level of perfection?
Well, I think if we can figure out what perfection means to whom we're talking to, I think you'll have a better idea as to who that person is. Perfection to me is not always winning, right? Not always coming in first. When I was in college, and listen to what I'm about to say, after every competition, if I wasn't in the top 5 in the world, I would emotionally shut down. There are many people on this planet, and I'm 18 years old at this point.
Wow.
But I had gotten so used to winning in high school. I lost 3 track meets in high school in 3 years. And they were never any meet that actually mattered. So I didn't know how to lose. But if I didn't place top 3 or top 5 in the world after every college track meet, I would emotionally shut down. And it would take 4 days to recover. But by then, I'm already gearing up for the next track meet. When I got to the professional level, my coach, Al Joyner, who's also an Olympic gold medalist, sat me down and said, I don't want you to go out here and win track meets. And I looked at him and was like, coming from an Olympic gold medalist, you're telling me that? And he said, that goal is not sustainable and it's not reachable. If you go out here and say that you want to place top 3 in every track meet, that's an attainable goal. And by the process of you doing that, you'll make every national team, every Olympic team, you'll always medal, and you'll always be where you need to be. So I shifted how I thought.
Yeah.
And perfection to me was showing up every day to practice and giving everything that I had. It's easy to perform when you're feeling good, when there's no aches and pains. But Elliotte, I was a professional athlete for 13 years of my life, and I was ranked as the #1 athlete in the world for 10 of them. It is so much harder to stay on top than it is just to be the #1 spot and stay there. It is so much harder because everywhere I went, I knew that there was a target on my back.
Next week on the Embracing the Journey podcast.
Speaking on like your love for the game, was there ever a time in your career, like high school, college, or professional, where you thought you had lost all of your love for track, or you didn't see yourself continuing, or like you needed a break or you needed to quit?
Nothing is forever unless you want it to be. I just accepted certain times in my career I didn't have fun. I hated it. I didn't want to show up. I wasn't performing well.
And do you feel like emotional capacity is like inherent, like that's because who I am, or it's taught? Like I feel like my capacity for pain and like unenjoyment was pushed to the limit by you. And there was never like a time to give in.